This episode is brought to you by Peacock. The new Peacock original documentary, Matthew Perry, A Hollywood Tragedy, dives deep into the beloved actor's rise to fame and his tragic death. 5 people, including Perry's personal assistant, 2 medical doctors, and an alleged Hollywood drug dealer known as the Ketamine Queen, were charged with conspiracy to illegally provide Perry with the ketamine. Explore the details of the case in this heartbreaking special, streaming now only on Peacock.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
You're listening to the Cardiff Central Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Cardiff Central Podcast. Apologies that we didn't make it to an episode last week. Just various things, including Dan trying to sober up from his stag do, me just being a bit of a mess all over the place. We just couldn't make it work. Sorry, but we're back. But me and Dan are back, and we're here to talk about, among other things, the Leinster loss and a win over Aberavon. Dan, how are we doing today?
Yeah, good. I have recovered from my stag do now. I developed life-threatening man flu on the back of it, but I fought through that purely to talk about a loss against Leinster. So that is the level of commitment we're showing here. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'll be honest, Dan, I almost asked you to cover for me on rap as well, so just to give you yet another hospital pass. But I too powered through to talk through the Leinster loss. Just quickly for the news, no real news for the Blue and Blacks. However, there was a statement put out by Cardiff RFC page about the sad loss of Cliff Howe on Friday at the age of 86. So former Blue and Black, played in the back row for the first team over 100 times, 106 games in all, scoring 21 tries. He also played in the Snelling Sevens and was involved, the only try scorer in the 1963 Cardiff versus All Blacks game. And then active member in youth coaching and former Players Association. Good man. We just want to extend our condolences to his family. It's sad. I don't really have too much to talk about on that one. I just thought it was sad. So, Dan, shall we start with the game where there was a victory for the Blue and Blacks? Do you want to go through the Rags winner over Aberavon?
Yeah, dead rubber game, last one of the cup for the Rags, who I think they may have been some weird and wonderful mathematical way they might have progressed into towards the final. But yes, it was I think it was used more as a warm up for Llandovery away this weekend, back into league action for Fishy's side. A lot of guys coming back into the team that had missed out on the Bridgend game either through injury or just being rested. Derry Cross, Joe Goodchild, Alan Rees from the semi-pro team. A couple of academy guys as well involved. Lucas De La Rua, Mackenzie Martin from the first team got a run out too. So good to see them all coming back in. Made a bit of hard work of it. Aberavon, not the side who really pushed us for sort of title winning and cup winning sides a couple of years ago, but have gone invested heavily in youth players as the SRCs come round. They've got their assistant coach Chris Davis is also head of rugby at Cardiff University, so they've got quite a few ex-Cardiff University guys in there, Ed Dunford and Saul Hurley, guys like this who've come out of academies as well as playing Buck Super Rugby. And yeah, they pushed the Rags hard. Glad to wait until the last play of the game. A really nice bit big scrum, and then Josh Thomas going through at 10 with an out the back door offload for Fraser Jones to score both the match winning and the bonus point winning try for the Rags. But a good victory, confidence booster. Played some nice stuff. Forwards were pretty good, pretty physical up front, and it's on to, well, we've got a week to brush things up now, 2 training sessions to clean things up before that massive game away at Llandovery, rearranged from just before Christmas. And although there's nothing really in sort of where you finish in the SRC because everybody makes the playoffs, but just sort of confidence wise and developing as well for the younger guys, it's good to get wins in difficult places like that. You know, that's going to be as close to the next level up as you're going to get going away to Llandovery. And then so I had 2 player notes. One was 80 minutes for William Bradley, which is positive as he returns from injury again. And then the other one was just a player who I noticed when I went to watch the Rags play RGC last month, and on the highlights was involved in 2 tries again, is Oshan Darwin Lewis at outside centre. I think he's only 18, maybe just turned 19. Was in and around the under-20 squad, but probably unlikely to get much game time with them this season. But he's shifted around the back line a bit in the early part of the season for the Rags, covering 10 and 12, but is back in his sort of natural home at 13 now with Elijah Evans away with the 20s, and is looking really dangerous there. He's quite a big guy. He's got a good turn of pace, can beat a man on the outside, physical defensively. So in a position where we seem to have quite a few players coming through at the moment with Evans and Darwin Lewis, and obviously Oshan Roberts was with the 20s, who's with Sale now, but is an ex-Cardiff age grade guy as well. Yeah, it's good to see Welsh rugby recovering that position where we've had a few years of not many people coming through outside centre.
So what you're saying is we only need one more year out of you, Ray. One more year.
Well, he can stay forever, but he doesn't have to play every game coming up. He can just be wheeled, sort of like he can be our Leinster guy where he gets wheeled out for like massive European games and stuff.
I like the sound of that. Moving on to sort of, well, we'll see how we feel over this game. Although, so obviously Saturday afternoon at 2:00. I don't know, 3:00 kickoff. No, the game I played in was at 2:00 kickoff. God, I swear I had a kick there. Anyway, so the Blue and Blacks went out to Leinster, and we got a very aesthetically pleasing 42-24 loss. But importantly, we did get a try bonus point, so we got something out of that game, which don't always get out of a Leinster game. In fact, it's only the second time Leinster have conceded a try bonus point in the league, and the only time at home. So, Dan, what were your overall thoughts of the game, and then sort of come in with bits I'd noticed?
The game itself, it was a tale of 70 minutes and 10 minutes, really. For 70 minutes, we were super competitive and caused Leinster a lot of problems. Second best of the set piece, but in open play, I thought there was a lot to like from Cardiff. Defensively, we caused them problems. They didn't slice us open particularly easily, made them work for their tries, turned them over quite a lot as well. It wasn't the sort of super efficient, functional Leinster that we've come to expect, even in international windows where their sort of second and third choice guys slot in for their Irish internationals seamlessly. We certainly disrupted their momentum and their flow in attack, and then with our attack caused them all sorts of problems. Leinster generally bring quite a lot of physicality, quite a lot of line speed, but I'm not for the first time against Leinster, but probably for the most sustained period in a game, we caused that rush all sorts of problems, got in behind them, some clever little variations with the forwards, getting us over the gain line, and then the depth and the pace that the attack sport was, the back sport was really good. The tries that we scored were excellent. Both the Millard scores are really nicely worked around the outside. Ellis Bevan's score as well is really nicely done off a kick return where we just set them up and down the middle and then play to the right, and Gabe Hamer-Webb goes down and passes it back inside for Bevan on a good tracking line. There was loads to like. Unfortunately, though, it was sort of all undone by a 10-minute yellow card period just after half time, where Alex Mann goes to the sin bin, and Leinster put on a bit of a clinic in how to be sort of efficient and clinical against 14 men. Scored 14 unanswered points. Scored a third try literally just as Mann walked back onto the field, and that was the sort of tail of the game, really, and results wise. But you take that 14-0 out and it's a 28-24 score line, which I think underlines just how competitive we were going over there. And yeah, we're rebuilding, and we're not going to go immediately up to challenging Leinster, who haven't lost a game all season. But I'm hopeful that the team can take a lot of confidence from that, and hopefully turn that into a bit of belief in themselves that, yes, we have a tougher fixture list in the second half of the season, and once we come back post Six Nations now, there's a lot of big games back to back. But hopefully the lads believe that they are capable of competing, and they are capable of winning against teams at the top of the table. There's obviously Leinster in a bit of a bracket all to themselves, but you look at some of our opponents coming up, Lions, Connacht, Benetton, Munster, in that step below them. And if we play like we did there against Leinster with, our internationals coming back, we can definitely be competitive. So, yeah, sort of a tale of the last 18 months for Cardiff, and it was a defeat, but there was definitely lots of positive to take from that defeat.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there were a couple of things. So, we actually were better. So, a few things based, from just sort of having my usual trundle through the stats. Actually, we were more efficient than Leinster when we did get into 22. We had 6 chances, we took 4. That's we got 4 points per entry. That's about level. Problem was we let Leinster have 13 entries. Part of that being down a man, and also that try just in the death of the first half. That was a killer. But that's something that Leinster do. They are just absolutely, whereas a lot of teams will switch off, or they don't really go. Leinster are pushing for that get at. They really go for that first score either side of half time, and that just to try and kill teams. But I thought it was really good. Some good performances. I thought Cam win it again, showing that he is a really good aerial fullback. I still think, as I mentioned on Rack last night, I think his defensive position is getting there, but it still needs work. But I mean, he's 22. I don't expect him to be the peak Lee Halfpenny yet. But yeah, pretty good. Bad luck for Rhys Barrett going off after 9 minutes. A player who we've both been very complimentary of in this run with Domachowski out. Well, Domachowski and Ed Byrne out. And ironically, this is probably the game we signed Ed Byrne for to get through these sort of things. But unfortunately, the defence looked reasonable. Probably slightly better tackle percentage. I don't know, that means not much. We conceded few line breaks, and Leinster got a few more turnovers, but it's going to happen. Yeah, it seemed. I think it was an all right performance. I think, like you said, I think a lot of other teams in this league, if we played like that, we'd win. But the problem is we played Leinster. So yeah, I think there's not really a lot much to say about this. I mean, we got I was chatting with Hugh off air, and he was sort of saying how annoyed he was with how bad our points difference is, but we're still 3 points ahead of Scarlets because we are getting that try bonus point every now and again. And it's like, yeah, but the teams we got blew away by were basically almost the full strength Shark side, Glasgow, who were on a mission. And I mean, the Edinburgh game, I still can't work out what happened in that game. Edinburgh seemed to just pull up this one performance where they just absolutely blow the other side away, and then we can go back to absolute dross, which that is the word of Edinburgh fans I talk to, not mine. They're the ones who say that. Please don't hate on me, Edinburgh fans, more than normal. Yeah, so now we've got 2 weekends off before we host the Lions, which again is just, we talk about the formatting issues. I don't think losing that one fallow week in the Six Nations is going to improve it. I think we're always going to have a disjointed club season up in the Northern Hemisphere. In terms of number of games, it's much longer than the Southern Hemisphere, and our big tournaments don't align at the right place, which we can moan about it, but I mean, let's be fair, unless we elect Dan to World Rugby chair, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. So moving on
I've got at least 40 years before I'm World Rugby chair as well. Like age-wise, I feel like there's the minimum age of 80 odd there.
That's fine. You just need to watch a few more Cardiff games, and I think that just emotionally ages you up. So we'll move on to Wales now. So Cardiff in red, as they were in Leinster, actually, I suppose. But so Jockey's new stable are going up to Murrayfield. So in the past we've had success, but not so much in recent times. How do we feel about this? I suppose we haven't really talked about the Ireland game. I don't think we've had a pod since the Ireland game.
No, well, I mean, on the back of the Ireland game, you can't fail to be excited really this weekend if you're a Welsh fan. I mean, the difference from Ireland to Italy was just night and day in terms of the confidence of the players, the ambition in attack, how they evened up between attack and defense. So we're just not constantly defending and making 200 odd tackles a game. Physicality up front, even without, not getting bigger, but just taking away the sort of direct collisions that we were seeing under Gatland to Matt Sherratt's shifting of the ball from the point of contact and trying to be a bit cleverer around that carrying in the tight just to set up play into width and moving the opposition around. There was always talk about how physical we were, and yeah, we don't have those big ball carriers, but we always said that there's another way to play. You can just move the opposition around, be a bit cleverer with your manipulation of space. And lo and behold, Matt Sherratt comes in on 3 training sessions and said, right guys, let's just not run directly head down, arse up into the opposition. Let's move a bit, and suddenly we're finding that we're getting to edges a bit easier and taking advantage of lazy defending. So yeah, that then going into Scotland, who are going to be less physical than Ireland, there's an opportunity there to really ramp up the meters in that we make in attack, meters after contact. If we can shift them about a bit, they're not going to be holding us up on the gain line or potentially dominating the breakdown as Ireland did, causing us a few problems that way. They'll be different in terms of their attack is going to cause us more problems wide out. I think generally we can defensively we can get up to play Ireland because we roughly know what sort of they're going to offer in terms of they're just looking to recycle the ball, and you've just got to be in that mindset of tackle, get up, form up, make another tackle, and force errors from there. We did that against Ireland, but Scotland will, with Finn Russell there, be much more sort of mercurial, much more difficult to predict. And if Russell is playing well and that Scotland backline is clicking, it's always a tough one defensively. But I don't see any reason why Wales can't go to Murrayfield and win on the weekend, which is a weird sort of place to be in after so many defeats in a row and so long without a win. I think the big probably barrier will be a bit of belief in themselves and a bit of nous in the last quarter of perhaps knowing how to win, because there's a lot of players who've been in the test arena a while and not experienced winning at that level. But yeah, if there is enough quality and enough experience there, I think, to get them over the line. Need a little bit of luck with injuries and allowing us to make substitutions on our own terms rather than being forced into them, keeping legs fresh at the right time. But yeah, there's attacking wise, we can cause Scotland problems. We can move them around. Defensively, we can get hold of them, especially if we can get stuck into that Russell Jordan 10 and 12 combination a bit early and shake them up a bit. And then I think kicking game is going to be a real key. We're relatively short in the back three. Anscombe, obviously not as mobile as he once was as well, going back there and helping out covering. I think Ben Thomas's kicking, he played much. He was absolutely fantastic against Ireland back where in a position that suits him, in an attacking system that suits him. But his tactical kicking still isn't top level. So I think if we can get hold of that and not allow Kinghorn to dominate aerially and continually pin us back, then we've got a great chance of going up there and winning.
Yeah, I think there's that. A couple of other looking more towards the pack is line out. So no one's line out has been particularly impressive. The Six Nations, everyone's had a bit of a wobble. Despite actually the competition, people not competing very well. That's not an area where we do very well in. We haven't been really counter jumping and stuff like that. So you could look at an option of bringing in a hybrid 6 or bringing Wainwright, so you have those 4 jumpers in your thing, or even James Botham, who is he may not be the strongest line-out forward that Wales can call on, but he's certainly better than Jack Morgan and Tommy Reffel in that respect. And I don't think you're losing too much breakdown now either. That's one thing I'd be interested too. The other thing, so, is the lake in the room, which is, do you risk bringing him straight in and risk messing up what was a fantastic performance from Elliot D, or do we bring him in off the bench, which unfortunately means that Evan Lloyd misses out, but he's still, he is still a kid, young lad, and he has played very well, and I wouldn't fault him. And even if Jockey says I'm not playing late this weekend, I'm keeping him fit for England, whatever, I'd have no problems with that. But I mean, Dewi Lake, former captain, he just adds something to that Wales side, particularly in terms of leadership. And I think actually in that last 20 against Ireland, that was something we just needed a fresh injection of leadership voice. Which is something, as much as I love Jack Morgan as a player, he's a fantastic player. I don't think this is where I feel like he lets himself down a bit as a captain, which is fine. You can be a world-class player and the best player on your side without being the captain. In fact, sometimes it helps. Just having someone like that coming off the bench be useful. The other thing is with the bench, I think players like, if Wainwright is on the bench, and presumably Teddy again, they need to come on about 10, 15 minutes earlier at least. I think we got a lot. Bringing them on at 10 minutes just doesn't give them enough time to put any impact on the game. If you look at Bundy Aki coming on at 50 minutes, well, I'm not getting into the red card thing or whatever. I'm fed up of saying how much I think it's a stupid idea. And the thing is, that was probably when you'd see Bundy coming on anyway. But you just looked at he had the time to make a difference. Whereas I feel you don't get that with 10 minutes. So that's my thing. But we've spoken about this with Jock, and he seems to be getting better at it with Cardiff, and maybe he's just trying to find his way and getting the balance right with Wales, which unfortunately he only has 3 games to do it. But
yeah, the pack section will be interesting because other than potentially swapping Rodgers and Murray around between wing and fullback, there's not going to, I don't foresee any change to the back line. We know today that Josh Adams is out with a hamstring injury, who may have come in if he was fit, but other than that, I don't, Thomas is set at 9. I would suggest Anscombe is probably going to run again at 10. That centre partnership went pretty well last week, so no reason for that to change. Mee was fantastic on debut, and then Murray's been great counter-attacking wise, but I think you saw with the Jamie Osborne try just the sort of disadvantage of having a shorter fullback where Lowe gets, who's also not the biggest bloke, but Lowe gets up above him to tap that ball back inside, and so whether Rodgers has a better chance there of getting up. He's not the tallest bloke himself, but Murray is particularly short. So yeah, backs wise, I don't see much change, but the pack will be interesting. I agree, like, I would leave D to start if Lake is ready off the bench 25, 30 minutes or whatever, of just saying, like, you've had however long out, you're ready to just go and hit some people, like, good luck. And then back 5 forwards wise, a hybrid 6 is an interesting one because whether like a Morgan and Reffel really worked against Ireland or not, obviously they made a lot of tackles between them, but it's difficult to ever get any sort of breakdown purchase against Ireland just because of, there's the classic thing about the way they go off their feet or whatever, but the way they manage that attacking breakdown, whether legal or not, makes it very difficult to often get over the ball. So whether that would be more effective against Scotland or not, or whether bringing a bit of a more physical presence of both of them or a Wainwright in would help. The other question I'd have is, will Rowlands look better against Ireland in the Sherratt system? No doubt about that. And I think his weight in the scrum was a big reason why the scrum was effective as well. On the flip side, then, Scotland will be more mobile. They're not as massive in the pack, so you don't necessarily need that massive size. Do you start Teddy and Dav then for 2 really good line-out options, a bit more mobility between the 2 of them potentially? Is a question that maybe Jockey will consider. I think he'll probably go for set piece first and foremost, so stick with Rowlands, but you do lose a bit in open play then, where he isn't as marauding as he once was when he was sort of Wales Player of the Year, year in, year out. So it's just about, I think the pack selection is more about what you're willing to sacrifice to a degree rather than what exactly you're wanting to add to it. But the bench then is the other thing is, if you're sticking with Morgan and Reffel and you want a bit more of an impact there, do you go 6-2 potentially and have both them and Wainwright on the bench? come on and add something. That's probably something I would consider for this one. The outside back, Joe Roberts didn't add a huge amount when he came on. I didn't think against Ireland.
I felt defensively. I mean, I think the problem was in that bit of time we didn't really.
Yeah, we was
Ireland were
much
very good. Ireland were pinging us back, and then we were sort of running up blind alleys, and we didn't really get to him on the wing.
I just wonder whether
he was excellent.
He's a good player.
He's probably the best. I think of all the outside backs we could put on the bench, I think for me he's probably the one who gives us the most coverage. If particularly if you are going to go 6-2.
Yeah,
it looks like he can do wing. Obviously, if 10 or 12 goes down, you can move Maxwell in.
Yeah, it's just like because you do the downside of the 6-2 would be that you probably do want a 10 on the bench because Anscombe does have a sort of constant fitness question mark hanging over him these days. So yeah, it's maybe we can just go with like a 9-man bench and a 6-3 and just don't tell anybody and sneak Jared Evans on there.
What do you mean? He's always been on there. He just goes through. I mean, saying that as a 10 on the bench, I'd be quite interested to see Dan Edwards. But I feel like it depends how the game goes because I feel like the Ireland game, the bench is set up for, go on, Jared, just see what you can do. Not necessarily this is a tight game, let's close it out. And I do feel like, even though he's much younger and more inexperienced, I do feel like Dan Edwards' brain is wired more than that. He reminds me very much of Dan Biggar with just like more natural flair.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Obviously, there was a bit of comment from Ospreys fans about Dan Edwards being left out and like Evans and Anscombe coming straight back in to bump him. And I think I absolutely got why Jockey went with Anscombe and Evans, who he's clearly worked with before. They know his attacking system. You could like of all the positions, 9 and 10 is going to be where you want somebody who really knows what you're trying to implement on the field. So it makes sense. I think that it'll be difficult to predict, I think, in Edwards being involved because the only way you would know is how quickly is to be in training every day and see how quickly he's picking up the system. And I don't doubt for a second that he is, has enough rugby IQ to get on board with it quite quickly and that it would suit him as well, actually. We've seen, like you said, he's got a lot of the bigger sort of, even though not being the biggest guy, he's quite happy with the physicality side of the game. He likes, the kick and lead in the chase and sort of that bigger attribute of like properly visibly taking the game by the scruff of the neck and sort of dragging his team along with him. But at the same time, anybody he's shown it a bit for the Ospreys, especially since Mark Jones has come in and they've moved the ball a bit more. And anybody who watched him in his year or two at the 20s as well, like he can play. Like that guy moves the ball. He has a gap. He goes for it. He can pick a pass as well. And I think he would be great in a Jockey system. The question will just be for Edwards throughout the rest of this tournament is, has he got enough time to pick up what Jockey wants to do in attack, basically?
Yeah, absolutely. One other thing I do want to talk about, because it will, I think for me, this will also sort out the bit on the thing is Scotland, whether they go for Ferguson or Ritchie at 6, the whichever one is usually on the bench, the other ones comes on. Either way, they're aggressive over the break. They're high. The Steve Dundee defense is, a very good defense, and they are very good at snicking ball. I think that's again where I think you want that more physical back row, maybe sacrificing the chance to pinch Scotland ball, just in lieu of wanting to make sure we secure our own ball, or we have to have our sort of 2-3 phase plan sorted and basically say if we haven't scored after 3 phases we're kicking, or we do X, we do Y, because the longer that goes on, the more like we're going to get turned over and coming back at the pitch ourselves. And I think that's one of those ones where you've got to be so detailed on forwards, which actually, to be fair, I thought that again was a huge improvement in the Ireland game. I thought forwards would get into rucks and they knew they knew who was going in, even if it was going to be a tip on, they knew instantly to I think there was one, it was for Henry Thomas when he came on, one of the things you give up. I can't remember who tips onto him. It might have been Jack tips onto him, so Henry can get that sort of weak shoulder, and then both the other 2 forwards in the pod are straight over it, and we've got, it's on a plate. I think you can do that in the first 2-3 phases. I don't think we can get away as that goes on. I think it gets less and less likely. Yeah, other than that, I think, yeah, I agree with you. Scotland, so we definitely can beat Scotland. Which I didn't think I was going to say when we were planning out these pods under Gatland. I don't think they will, but I certainly think we can. And yeah, I think we've alluded to it, but team is basically same as last time, really. But then, probably looking at Lake coming in for Evan Lloyd, who again, it's no slight on Evan Lloyd. I think he's done really well, and actually, I think his arrows have been as good as D's. I just think the line out wasn't. I think we had other issues, got too many other issues going on for him. But yeah, I think keys Scotland. Get up and line out, make sure our own ball secured, and more impact from the bench with particularly the timing. Do you have a prediction for this game or?
If I probably be totally honest, I'd probably say Scotland by 5 or something like that. But I don't see it being more than one score, particularly either way necessarily. It'd be pretty close, but I'd love Wales just to nick it last play of the game. That'd be great. But just on Evan Lloyd as well, missing out or whatever, that it's looking quite good for Cardiff the next few weeks. I was thinking the other day that after the Leinster loss, the next game against the Lions now, we'll cover it over the next few weeks or whatever, but it's quite a big game now, really. Like, we really need to win that one, I think, in terms of getting a win this calendar year and stopping the losing streak and not too many obvious opportunities for a win coming up, and as well as going into the Connacht game. But I think generally you'd expect to probably be without one or two of your lads who have played week in, week out for Wales over the last few weeks in that game. They'll probably be rested as the week immediately after the Super Saturday. But if you go through, like, Azarati now not getting too many minutes potentially the rest of the tournament with how good Will Griff-John was against Scotland, against Ireland. Evan Lloyd now with Derry Lake back, having a few weeks rest as well. Teddy only coming off the bench, won't have racked up too many minutes. James Botham not in the 23 at the moment. Josh Adams, hamstring injury, hopefully not too serious, and he's just back in time to play the Lions. That would be great. So yeah,
I'm hoping that's what Jockey's doing. He's like, you could play, but
yeah.
also
the Lions.
Lions and Connacht.
Like, it does seem like Ellis Bevan, like, I don't know, maybe slightly oddly in my mind, but isn't the second choice 9 at the moment. Rodri Williams kept that jersey against Ireland. Maybe him not being used suggests that Jockey doesn't have full faith in him either. But Bevan's not getting a huge amount of minutes, so hopefully he'll be ready to go against the Lions as well. So there's as much as you want to see our players, kicking on at test level and thriving there and gaining that experience and stuff. At the same time, having a bunch of them back straight in available for Lions and Connacht is quite positive for us.
Well, I said, look at Ospreys, and they were able to deal with a depleted Glasgow side.
Yeah,
because as much as they don't want to admit it, it was very close to a full first choice 15 that they had out. So I think, was it Watkin, Lake, and I mean, I did point this out to someone else and said, can you really count Lake as your first choice hooker, given how little he actually gets to play? Like,
he's
your first choice hooker is Sam Parry. You've just got to accept this. Lake is your bonus. Is like a bonus. You get to bonus trump card. You get to play once in a while. Anyway, unless there's anything you want to discuss upcoming or.
No, it's quite quiet in Cardiff Rugby land at the moment, really. To kind of feel like no news. Like, the games, Leinster away doesn't feel like it counts as a proper fixture because you just sort of like lose there all the time. So.
Well, as I joked during news desk on the wrap, because Ospreys have done a load of business. It's like, well, Cardiff are just waiting for their new checkbook to come in.
We never announce anything during the Six Nations. We always get a load of stuff out the way before, and then just sort of literally like we sort of furlough everybody for a couple of weeks before coming back again after the Six Nations. It feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so that is all from Dan and myself. If you enjoy this podcast, please send us a lovely review, or if you're watching on the YouTube channel, leave a nice comment. We'll try and get around and reply if we see if it's nice enough. And also share the podcast with your friends. Anyone who you think would either enjoy it or someone you don't like and you think they'd really hate to listen to this, because they're all listens we don't mind. And all that's left to say is thank you very much for listening. Ta-ra.
That was the Cardiff Central Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton sheets from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with sheets that feel breathable to sleep in. You'll experience the purest softness on night one and feel your sheets get even softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com with code BUTTERY. Exclusions apply. See site for details.